Welcome back to Jane's Stories of Life. The other day in an email from Ancestry.com, there was a notice for Morgan. I've never deleted his account, so periodically things will come to his account about matches through DNA. The one that came the other day said that there was a match with his half-brother, Howard Little. Well, fortunately, Morgan has known Howard for Howard's life. Morgan's parents divorced when he was 5 years old, and his father went on to have 4 additional sons. And they all lived in Dover, Delaware. So Morgan grew up knowing the 4 half-brothers. As I saw that, and I thought, not everybody knows about family members, and I'm sure from time to time someone receives a notice about a sibling that they perhaps didn't know that they had. There's a television show, I've never watched it, but I see clips of it periodically on YouTube, where families are where they have found, parents and siblings for children who were perhaps adopted or raised some other place, and they make the matches, and it goes on to show their reunions and so forth. But I happen to think, if you didn't know about a sibling that you had, that could be quite alarming to receive an email and suddenly find that, yes, there was somebody out there who was related to you in that way. Which started me thinking about the whole topic of siblings. Some of you may know my dad died when I was 6, and I happened to have, it was just my mom and I from then on. So I was I was an only child. Morgan's mother never had more children, so he was basically raised as an only child too. And I always like to dispel some of the myths about only children. Only children, in my view, are wonderful children because, no, we were not spoiled. In many cases, we were so happy to have anyone to play with, anyone our age, any companions. And we are loving, generous, kind people, in my view. Maybe there are some who were more privileged, whose parents could indulge them in things, but mine was not, and I know Morgan's wasn't either. So I just like to dispel that. I've always been sorry that I didn't have siblings. The closest I came was when I was 4 years old. My parents opened our home to June, who was a 15-year-old young lady in foster care. And so June became like a big sister to me, and she claimed me as her little sister, and she was my big sister. And so for the next 7 or 8 years, we had that close relationship. And even later on, there is one of my other videos that I did, which I hope you will look at, is entitled, I think, The Miracle of a Reconnection. For many years, we lost touch. And through what I consider a miracle, I found June some 25 years later. So I hope you'll look at that video because we picked up right where we left off. But siblings are just so special. Our 2 children were 13 months apart, and they were very close. Cindy was the oldest, and for probably the first 5 years, John was a little smaller. He was literally her little brother, but after maybe 5 or 6, he became taller. But nobody messed with her little brother. There was one little boy that Cindy pushed off of the front porch. She shoved him right off of our front porch because of something he said to John that she didn't like. There was another instance where a child, John was in first grade at that point. A little boy rode his bicycle by the house, and one of John's white friends was playing in the front yard with John and Cynthia, and the little boy riding by in the house yelled a racial epithet aimed at Peter, the little white boy, calling him a lover. Cindy took off after that little boy on the bike. Fortunately, he pedaled a little bit faster than her little feet would carry her, but not much, because it's a good thing she did not catch up with him. That's all I'll have to say about that child. But our children were close, and you know, brothers and sisters do have their moments, but for the most part, they were very close through the years. You know, Cindy's death hit John very hard, as I know it does with siblings when one of their siblings is no longer living. Our grandchildren, Cindy's children, Dominique, grandson, is 2 years older than granddaughter Morgan. They've been close through the years, and you know, it's just been interesting. It's been fun. I had trouble when dealing with sibling arguments and things, because that was something I just didn't know how to deal with them. My mother-in-law said to me, Jane, they'll work it out. Don't you try to referee. Don't you try it, because they'll turn against you. Just let them handle it and they'll figure things out, which they did. So, you know, it's siblings are something. I find that it's hard at certain times. I know at the point at which my mom could no longer be cared for, could no longer live independently, and the care that she needed was something that we could not do in our home. Decision making on finding a suitable nursing facility for her fell upon me as an only child. And those decisions at times like that were rough. Morgan was a great supporter, because he faced the same things in dealing with situations. Although his mother had remarried during the years, she did have a husband, but only children, there are times when it's you certainly wish you had siblings. I have been close to some of my cousins. I don't have a large family, but the few cousins that I have were a good support for many things. And the other thing that has been very important to me in my life, not having biological siblings, has been my Delta Sigma Theta sorority sisters. I mean, my close friends, my sisters, have my sorority sisters and Deltas have just been the sisters that I never had biologically. So those Delta sorors and those friends are certainly a support. And of course, if you happen to be fortunate as I was and marry into a loving, supportive family, in-law, Morgan had, you know, he didn't have a large family, lots of cousins, lots of aunts and uncles. And so, you know, there was that kind of inclusion, which I enjoyed. But I still regret that I didn't have siblings. And I watch siblings interact there. Sometimes, however, I'm probably glad I didn't, as I hear siblings complain about, you know, well, this sibling isn't doing this, and this from my sister, blah, 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 blah. But in the long run, siblings are special. So I just wanted to throw out some thoughts. I know some of you have siblings, some of you are only children, some of you have extended families and blended families, and it's just, love doesn't have to be biological. We certainly know that. So whatever memories you have with those who are close to you, cherish your memories and pass them on.